Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another video. This is Tifosi Culture TV and I'm your host Hotshot, and today it's a different video. There's no tactical analysis or match previews. It's a simple reaction video to the news that broke earlier today where Chelsea FC have sacked or parted ways, however you want to put it, with Frank Lampard. The way we're going to break this video down is I'm going to read the statement made by Chelsea FC and then I'm going to give my thoughts, and I'm also going to give a little bit of a snippet of the article written by The Athletic, which is really good. I highly recommend you guys check it out. The article depicts how things went wrong for Frank Lampard, his relationship between the board, his players, and the board's reason for sacking Lampard. So before we get into today's video, if you like this video, please make sure to smash that like button. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm, pushes this video out to a bigger and wider audience, and if you're new here, do subscribe. It's free. It really motivates me to put out more content, and comment down below whether you think sacking Frank Lampard was the right decision made by Chelsea. And for the existing subscribers and for the returning viewers, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, and I love you guys. So first, let's take a look at the statement made by Chelsea FC regarding the sacking. Chelsea Football Club have today parted company with head coach Frank Lampard. This has been a very difficult decision and not one that the owner and the board have taken lightly. We are grateful to Frank for what he has achieved in his time as head coach of the club. However, recent results and performances have not met the club's expectations, leaving the club mid-table without any clear path to sustain improvement. There can never be a good time to part ways with a club legend such as Frank, but after a lengthy deliberation and consideration, it was considered a change is needed. Now to give the club time to improve performances and results this season. Roman Abramovich said, "This was a very difficult decision for the club, not least because I have an excellent personal relationship with Frank and I have the utmost respect for him. He is a man of great integrity and has the highest of work ethics. However, under current circumstances, we believe it is best to change managers. On behalf of everyone at the club, the board, and personally, I would like to thank Frank for his work as head coach and wish him every success in the future. He is an important icon of this great club, and his status here remains undiminished. He will always be warmly welcomed back at Stamford Bridge." I think it's safe to say that Frank Lampard's legacy as a player and as an icon of Chelsea FC will not be tarnished. He is loved by the board and more so by the fans, and we'll get to that later. And for Roman Abramovich to come out and personally give a statement shows the bond between him and Frank Lampard as a close friend and as a good employee. And for the Chelsea fans, I do not think I have spoken to a single fan who is in support of this decision. I think most of them are really sad at the fact that the return of their club legend did not end in a successful manner. I think most of them wanted him to lift the Premier League title as a player and as a manager, and I think a small part of them on the inside wanted him to lift the Champions League as a manager like how he once did as a captain. But I think Chelsea fans have experienced a rude awakening, or it has hit them hard that Chelsea FC or Roman Abramovich is not in the business of caring about fans' feelings or for romanticizing club legends. They are in the business of win at all costs, and showing ruthlessness. And sometimes that can be a good thing to show ambition. I applaud a club for showing ambition and for wanting the best out of their club. But when you're dealing with a club legend like Frank Lampard, things can get very tricky. Like in the statement said, there is never a perfect time to part ways with a legend and an icon such as Frank Lampard, who won so many trophies for them, won their Champions League trophy and scored so many goals for the club. Someone of such importance as Frank Lampard should have been treated with a lot more respect. But if you look at it objectively, if the results that came under a different manager happened, I think any Chelsea fan or any fan in particular would have said, yeah, he has got to go. Given the amount of money they spent close to 200 million on Timo, Werner, Kai Havertz, Ben Chilwell. It did not work out, or the manager could not find a system to incorporate all of them. If this was any other manager, I'm pretty sure everyone, or at least the vast majority would have called for the sack. But since it's Frank Lampard, I think the club have been in a sticky situation, and they knew this was coming. They knew that at any point of time in the future that if Frank Lampard were to not deliver the goods, they would have to sack him, and this would cause a mass outrage among the Chelsea supporters. For me, as a non-Chelsea fan, I personally have the utmost respect for Frank Lampard. Bear in mind that when he came into the club, this was a club that had lost Eden Hazard. This was a club that had been hit by a transfer ban. I don't think any top manager would have entered the club at that point of time, because it was Chelsea, because it was a club that Frank Lampard loved so dearly. I'm pretty sure that was the main reason why he entered into the managerial hot seat, so that he could be the one to turn things around. He could be the one to stabilize the club, sort of grow the club into a different Chelsea from the ones in the past, and he could also grow as a manager himself, being that he has only had 1 year on the job at Derby County. But alas, that wasn't to be. But Chelsea AFC have to hold their hands up. They knew the risks involved in hiring an inexperienced manager. They knew that things weren't going to be so easy. They knew that they weren't going to win the league in 2 to 3 years time, and they had to be patient. And I think the fact that they weren't patient shows that you cannot change a leopard's spots. So now if we take a look at the article written by The Athletic, I highly recommend you guys check this out. It depicts the entire situation from a board's perspective, from Maria, the board, and Roman's perspective, and from Lampard's. There was numerous struggles behind the scenes, most notably in the 2020 January transfer window when he wanted Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. At that point, he wanted to leave Arsenal. He wanted Hakim Ziyech immediately so that he could help him in his push for the top four, but that didn't happen. And there was a lot of friction with Maria Granovskaia regarding selecting of his backroom staff, and most notably, the most notable one was the handling of Kepa. Lampard wanted a new keeper, but Maria said that it's his job to put an arm around Kepa and to get the best out of Kepa, because Kepa has been their most expensive signing, 72 million for a goalkeeper. So clearly the Chelsea board wanted to get the most out of him before they could pass a verdict that he was a flop. Ultimately they did. They brought in a new goalkeeper, but they wanted more from Kepa, and they felt that Frank Lampard was not doing a proper job in getting the best out of him. He was also adamant on the signing of Declan Rice, who most of you may not have known. He was a Chelsea Academy graduate and he was rejected by the club. He went on and clearly he's doing great things for West Ham, and Frank Lampard desperately wanted him back. Chelsea FC, on the other hand, the board did not want to buy him back. There was also a statement that came out that Lampard could not communicate properly with his squad. He only communicated with the players he likes. There were very few players that he liked. He spoke to them and them alone, and the rest of the squad he was distant from them. And coming to Frank Lampard's side of the story, there were a lot of people in the club, within the club, that he was unsure who to speak to, because the minute he would speak to them, they would turn around and speak bad things about him behind his back. So there were a lot of issues there with who he could and could not trust, because there was a lot of intention by Frank Lampard to change the culture of the board, the club, because whenever things go south, they always have the habit of typically blaming other people instead of taking responsibility and holding themselves accountable. And Frank Lampard desperately wanted to change that culture, and this also directly leads into the mentality of the players, because most of them were from a previous regime under Mourinho, under Conte, under Sarri, where they have inculcated this mentality. Whenever things go wrong, they go into crisis mode and only look out for themselves. Frank Lampard wanted them to think of the unit, think of the squad, and motivate each other and push each other up as a team. Also, there came the fact that the board did not clear out the deadwood, the players whom he wanted to sell out, the likes of Marcus Alonso, Emerson, Zappacosta, Victor Moses. COVID played a big factor in that, as clubs could not buy as much as they would like to, so they only tried to go for loan deals, and Chelsea had no choice but to let them go on loan deals, which meant that Frank Lampard had this bloated squad. They would cause a lot of detriment to the morale of the squad, to the spirit of the squad, and that was something Frank Lampard was against. And the fact that he could not get the best out of Kai Havertz and Timo Werner. They were bought with much anticipation, they were bought with much hype. Frank Lampard could not work them into a system that benefited them both. Timo Werner, as we all know, he's a left inside forward, but Frank Lampard typically played him as a left winger. Kai Havertz similarly could not find a role for him. There were a lot of issues that happened, and that led to Werner's and Havertz's shocking drop in form, and the fact that he could not bring out the best in them was a major concern for the board. And then came that dreaded December run, playing 9 games and only winning 3 against Leeds, against West Ham and against Fulham, having lost to Man City and Arsenal, their London rivals. According to The Athletic, their loss against Leicester, their 2-0 loss against Leicester, was the final nail in the coffin. After the game, Frank Lampard shook hands with all of his players, thanking them for their services under him, and the mood around the dressing room was a somber one. And after that, calls were made to Ralf Ragnick, calls were made to find out a potential replacement, and that's where the replacement for Frank Lampard was found. We'll get to him in a bit. Considering Chelsea's pedigree of sacking managers like Roberto Di Matteo, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, who was successful for them, not to mention Carlo Ancelotti, who was sacked after their loss to Everton, I don't think it came as much of a surprise. But when it comes to a club legend like Frank Lampard, like I mentioned, fans are not going to take it lightly. This was supposed to be the new Chelsea, a Chelsea that they were supposed to have their eyes on the future instead of the present. Hiring an inexperienced manager like Frank Lampard, you were bound to not have results go your way. You were bound to have a dip in form. Chelsea had been selling dreams to fans. The board said that this was a Chelsea for the future. This was a Chelsea team that was supposed to be the blend of youngsters from Cobham with international superstars. This was supposed to be a team that was brimming with youth as well as experience. This was a Chelsea team that was supposed to be molded into the style, into the ideas of Frank Lampard, that would put stability over anything else, over immediate success. But sadly, Frank Lampard wasn't given time, and this also proves that in a club like Chelsea, it's all about winning, all about ruthlessness. It's all about win at all costs. If your manager does not live up to that expectations, goodbye. So in my opinion, I really think he needed to stay one more season, at the very least, given until the end of the season to turn things around. And I think he would be kicking himself, and I think he would be extremely hurt at the fact that he could not turn around the fortunes of his beloved club, and he could not give them success the way the club had given him a successful career. And I think he would be kicking himself for that. Now coming to his replacement, Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that the replacement for Frank Lampard is Thomas Tuchel. Now this was done purely like how Rafa Benitez was brought in to bring the best out of Fernando Torres because of their time together in Liverpool, and also because of their Spanish connection. I think Tuchel was brought in just to bring out the best out of Timo Werner and Kai Havertz. And like the article in The Athletic said, calls were being made to Ralf Ragnick. He did not like the length of the job, and calls were being made to even Naglesmann because of the connection between Werner and Naglesmann. So there was an intention of bringing someone with a previous history with Timo Werner, or at least a German-speaking manager for Kai Havertz as well. When both of those managers rejected, Thomas Tuchel was the only one who was available at the time, and even he was not sure of taking a job midway through the season, but the job was too good to pass up by Tuchel, so immediately he agreed to sign on the dotted line, and there you have it. Chelsea's new manager is Thomas Tuchel. So that is it, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. It remains to be seen what's going to happen for the future of Chelsea Football Club. Drop your comments down below. What do you think, whether if it was the right decision to sack Lampard, and do like this video if you enjoyed it, and do subscribe if you're new here. We do match reviews, previews, tactic analysis, team analysis, and we cover general news like this. So until the next video, this is me, Hotshot, signing out. Peace.